Double the Sonics means double the adventure. 2 ways to play, twice the fun. Sonic Generations.
Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we are going back to the most festive video game of all time, Sonic Generations. I kid, but I actually have a connection to this game through my 2011 Christmas, which I will get into in this video. It's a pretty funny story, but the real reason I am playing Sonic Generations in 2022 is because Sonic Frontiers has dropped this year. For those who don't know, my Too Long Didn't Read, but you can also check out my full review over on Mr. Matty Plays if you so desire. But my Too Long Didn't Read for Sonic Frontiers is, I liked it a lot. I thought that it was a super endearing storyline. I really liked how the gameplay evolved into a semi-open world design. I thought it fit Sonic really well. It reminded me a bit of Spider-Man where the point A to point B was fun. It was just fun to traverse and go to my next objective, which not many games can say. And there were some flaws in the product. I thought the camera was occasionally a test of patience. I do think that some parts of the story felt like they were missing or rushed, particularly in the end. But I really dug it otherwise. I thought it was a great step forward and a wonderful framework. And again, that story was so refreshing. The last time I felt something for Sonic really was probably like SA2, where I really felt something, because that ending was something else. But the reason I'm bringing up Generations now is because before Frontiers, Generations was the favorite modern Sonic game. It was the only reason I held hope, and I kept an open mind to go back and try all of the adventure games, Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, you name it, we've gone back and played it. It's all because of this game, which I thought was so good, it made me a believer that certainly it can't all be bad. And the question mark I have, almost a thought exercise going into this game, is after playing Sonic Frontiers, really liking it, particularly because of its story and freedom, could I enjoy the tighter, linear Sonic experience again, like I once did with Sonic Generations in 2011? Well, I'm here to answer that question, but ladies and gentlemen, if you are new here and you're into nostalgic or retrospective content, or I can even say at this point, even Sonic content, yeah, we do a lot of it, so consider subscribing. With that, let's get into the complete in-box experience. Sonic Generations deserves better. When I ordered this online, I didn't realize there was a tear here, there's a tear here, a little bit of a cut in the actual art. There's a big rip here in the art. This game deserves better. We are going to replace this case when we get the chance. You can see it's playable in 3D. That's important because they'll mention it on the back, but it says 2 Sonics, 2 ways to play. Spin, attack, and dash in non-stop platforming action as classic Sonic, or experience supersonic speed as you grind, slide, and boost as modern Sonic. For the first time ever, 2 Sonics in one epic game. A mysterious new power sends Sonic back in time, where he runs into his original classic self. Now, they must embark on the ultimate time-bending adventure to defeat their enemies, save their friends, and find out who's behind it all. It says take on infamous bosses and mysterious new enemies. Amazing high-definition graphics, also playable in 3D, like I mentioned, here on the front, playable in 3D. Lastly, unlock new challenges and adventures. This one in particular I really dig. For those who don't know, in Sonic Generations, you can actually unlock the classic Sega Genesis Sonic the Hedgehog. And I don't really have much nostalgia for it. I rarely played it, actually. But what I like about it is it reminds me of what Konami did with TMNT 2 Battle Nexus and 3 Mutant Nightmare, where in TMNT 2 Battle Nexus, they put the Ninja Turtle arcade game in there. And then in Mutant Nightmare, they put Turtles in Time in the game as an unlockable. It was awesome. So I love that this game has it. Continuing on with the complete in-box experience, not much to see here. You want to talk about what did the back of the box say here? Supersonic speed. Get ready for this manual here, because we are about to go through it in supersonic speed. Ready? 1, your controls. 2, Xbox Live. 3, you're done. That's it. With a promotion for Sonic Sega All-Stars Racing on the back with Banjo-Kazooie. And I believe Ryo Hazuki is in this as well from Shenmue, which is pretty cool. And I want to talk about Shenmue on this channel at some point because I love Shenmue. But anyway, that is your complete box copy, if you will, of Sonic Generations. I always recommend get it on Xbox 360 because if you have a Series X, then you will have FPS boost. That is a game changer for this game, where over on PC and on Steam Deck, it's solid, but it even drops frames there in my experience. I think Series X is the best place to play. But with that, it's story time because I do have one for Sonic Generations. So it is December of 2011. and I'm enjoying a pretty nice high on life at this point in time. Why is that, you may be asking? Well, my dream was always to do this for a living. Just sit, talk about video games, and enjoy the company of other fellow enthusiasts. What I didn't expect was Skyrim, my most anticipated game of my lifetime probably, outside of Fallout 4, was the game that would be the blow-up period for me over on my Mr. Matty Plays YouTube channel, where I made a lot of Skyrim rare weapon and armor guides. Now, over there, while I was working on that, I was also looking forward to Sonic Generations, and so, you know, put it on the Christmas list, sent it off to Santa, and Santa did indeed deliver the goods. Now, when it arrived on Christmas Day, I wasn't feeling too hot. I remember I went to bed pretty early, and for those who don't know, I am a Christmas freak. I love Christmas. It's probably the best mood you'll ever find me in once a year. I love that holiday. So, it was pretty strange for me to be like, I'm turning in early, I don't feel well, kind of have a fever. Next day I wake up, not feeling good at all. Long story short, we moved to the next day. I'm like, hey, I'm feeling pretty good today. I don't know what happened, but I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good today. Go to the bathroom, walk out of the bathroom, your boy collapses. I just dropped to the floor. I was just like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain right now. So we drive to the hospital because I am in excruciating pain. Turns out your man's got appendicitis. And he's got to get that emergency surgery, otherwise it's going to burst, and then retro rebound never exists. The butterfly effect, right? So, finally get my surgery done. I had to drink a nasty tub of liquid that I'll always remember. Oh my God, because they had to do a CAT scan on my stomach. It was terrible. But I go through all of that. So finally, I'm better. I'm out. The appendix had been removed. And now I'm in my recovery process. So I have about 2 to 3 weeks off, which was amazing, especially because I was a student at the time. So your boy was just flying clear, and the teachers were so accommodating. We're like, don't worry about the homework. Take care of yourself. I was like, yeah, oh, I'm going to. But for a while, I was on painkillers and stuff, so I really couldn't do anything. I was extremely tired. And eventually, once I came to and I didn't need them as much and I could at least somewhat get around, it was time to get back into playing video games. And during this time, like, I was watching old E3 demos in bed. Like, that's how I was just entertaining myself, watching like E3 2008, 2009. I was just going through them all because I had nothing else to do, and I just passed out watching them. But eventually, it was time to game, and Dark Souls was my companion during this time, and so was Sonic Generations. This game, man, I remember it clear as day. I picked it up, and it just felt like things had come back to normal. It grounded me so much during the really tough holiday times where usually I enjoy a bit of an up, and this one really just, I connected with it so much. It was such a fun time, so many fun stages. Obviously, the story isn't that great in Sonic Generations, but that's my connection to it. Is like, I had this really dramatic experience on my favorite holiday and still came out fondly remembering parts of it, mostly in part thanks to this game and Dark Souls 1. And that adventure into Dark Souls 1 for the first time blind was just like crazy. But I digress. Sonic Generations. Why is this my favorite modern Sonic game? It's because it takes the boost gameplay that you saw in Sonic Unleashed, a game that we've also talked about on the channel, a game that I do have some love for in its ambition, but definitely not its controls. And what it does is evolves that gameplay, makes it a little bit tighter, where I always define Sonic Generations boost levels as a really good Need for Speed game, where you drift around corners, it feels tight and precise, there's room for error, and it's really good, and the stage diversity is there. And going through the stages again in 2022 after playing Sonic Frontiers, where every red medal is easy to get and it's easy to S-rank everything, you'll notice in the gameplay, and I have no shame showing it here, your boy was struggling a little bit. I recognized here just how, you know, I thought Sonic Forces was easy mode, but I recognized how one-track easy Sonic Frontiers truly was, where it makes you feel like you're good at Sonic, but then you go back to a good controlling modern Sonic game that does challenge you and does make the collectibles hard to get, and you have to go through certain paths, and you go, oh, so this is what a tougher modern Sonic game is like. Not extremely brutal difficult. Like, I think Unleashed was really tough in its boost levels. The combat levels, of course, weren't that hard, but Sonic Generations, I did have some trouble with. And I loved that. I loved going back and being challenged and remembering this is why I loved it, because these levels were truly replayable to me, much like I felt with Sonic Adventure. But now here's the new hook for me. Remember what I said, I was not into the older Sonic games. I never really played them, but I played some of the modern ones. However, now your man has played a lot of the Sonic games. So it was so amazing to go in and see like Seaside Hill, to see Speed Highway. I mean, there were so many stages I recognized and went, oh, this is such a treat, because I was thinking, oh, this game might just be bathing me in nostalgia, short-term nostalgia, mind you, because I just played all these games within the last year. But this game's about to bathe me in nostalgia in a weird way. Okay, this is going to be interesting. But as I went through and realized they developed the levels, they changed them, and you have a 2D playable section with classic Sonic and a 3D, I was like, wow. Wow. And the one drawback of Sonic Generations was undoubtedly its performance. Specifically Speed Highway, which is my favorite mission in the entire game. I love this stage. But when you start rushing down the building and the cops are following you, it's like, oh man, this frame rate is going through the floor. But not anymore with FPS boost. This was my first time playing Sonic Generations since they added an FPS boost. I took my talents over to Sonic Unleashed because I heard that game was the bee's knees according to the Sonic community, even though this game was slandered at release. But I digress. I stayed away from Sonic Generations. But when I went back and I saw those levels that typically chugged big time over on the 360 now ran smooth as butter, it was incredible. I was like, this is a work of art by Xbox, but more importantly, this to me makes Sonic Generations like the de facto go-to modern Sonic game. The only caveat, the only holding back, and I think it's a little excusable because it's all about nostalgia and how they redesign older levels, but the only caveat for me is the story. Like, it's just not there. It reminds me a bit of how I felt with that transition from Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 into Heroes, where Heroes went really gameplay focused, whereas here I went from Sonic Frontiers, which was very story focused, I would say, and the gameplay just felt very, it was good, but it was nothing super challenging. Where now I'm going into this game where it's like the opposite completely, where it is very gameplay focused and the story just doesn't really matter at all. Like, you're there's this big creature that's absorbing people. There are a ton of different dimensions that are open. As you complete these stages, you're going to see, for example, Tails come back, Amy come back, Knuckles come back, and so on and so forth. They're all going to come back as you continue to complete these stages. You're going to fight bosses during certain parts of the story to unlock more stages. And it's just a good progression loop, because what completes it, and this was the one thing I completely forgot about, and I know I forgot it because honestly, it's a part of the progression of the game to get like boss keys. You need to do challenge stages. And what I loved is one of the first ones I fired up was with Knuckles, and it was on Sky Temple, I believe, which was kind of cool because it was a play off of Sonic and Knuckles, where I believe that's the first time that stage appeared. And having the level be about Knuckles running around and digging under objects and getting coins for you and completing that in a certain amount of time was awesome, because at first I thought the challenge was, again, I was accustomed to this later version of design for Sonic Team where, oh, I'm gonna, complete the objective and that's it. But then you got to get to the end of the stage where it's tough to get that S rank. And I like that. But again, I love the callback where Knuckles' primary objective in pretty much every Sonic game I've played so far has been the guy who digs things up. So to have like a mission such as that, to have a boss fight with Metal Sonic, to have a race against your doppelganger, to try to literally beat yourself, that is a tough one, because especially if you're like me and you're bad with 2D Sonic, going into that was tough. But more than anything, what was so refreshing was seeing new assets. I don't know how else to put it, because it's like we've gone in reverse over the years, but in Sonic Frontiers, it was like Green Hill Zone, the game, constantly throughout all the cyberspace stages. And I have love for Green Hill Zone, and I know they had a couple of others, but they really did not spread the wealth here. Whereas Generations, given its callback nature, it really feels like every stage is a bit different. And when you add in that replayability, not only through Sonic Classic and then Modern Sonic, but then getting all of those challenge rings and getting that S rank and then going to the challenges and doing them for both Classic Sonic and Modern Sonic, it's a wonderful, wonderful Sonic experience. It's just that story is not bad. It's just kind of there. It's a conduit to get you to the stages. And I respect that because I would like a more emotional, personal Sonic tale, kind of like something we got in Frontiers. But I like that this game understood what it wanted to do and kind of just got out of the way. It just let me have fun. And these stages, you know, I love how they almost emulate the older products in a way. Like most of these stages are 2 to 4 minutes. But when you did the Sonic Heroes stages, which Sonic Heroes, at least in my experience, like, man, a short stage was like 9 minutes at times. But in Sonic Generations, when they remade a hero stage, like, it was a considerably longer one. It was in the 5-minute area, which is a little, you could feel that. And I like how they respected the design of the older game. So it was a great throwback ultimately. And I just have good memories of the game because it lifted me up during a pretty tough time. Getting your appendix removed isn't the worst thing that could ever happen to you, but it certainly was very painful. And being on painkillers was awful. So for me, like, I'm just happy to return to this and enjoy it as much as I did all those years ago. While it was a crutch back then, now it's just this really fun experience. And so I highly recommend you check out Sonic Generations. You know, it does fall into the category, I gotta be honest with this, it does fall into the category of shorter Sonic games. Another thing that I really liked about Frontiers, it was, especially for modern gaming, just the right length. Just around the 20-hour mark for me when I was all done and I had my attack fully upgraded, my defense fully upgraded, my speed, my ring capacity, all that was fully upgraded. A lot of the content was done in the game, and I did all the fishing, collected everything from every fishing spot, and it was about 20 hours. Like, that is like a true satisfying Sonic experience, whereas Generations does fall into that pocket where it has a lot of diversity, you have a lot of cool content here, but we're talking, like, with the challenges and everything, maybe 10-ish hours, maybe, you know, especially as you get into your rhythm. You know, it's definitely gonna speed up a little bit. Pardon the pun, but I think it's worth the dive. And it's got the trick system, right? You saw that in Frontiers where I loved the trick system in that game because there were some times you just fly off a rock and just do a ton of flips, land, keep going in stride. This game has it where you can see where it all began, right? You do the 1, 2, and then you see him do the adventure pose when he hits LB, RB. Yes, love to see it. So yeah, there's a lot of callbacks in this game. It really knows itself, like, it has a true sense of self, a sense of identity. It doesn't try to have anything get in the way of that. And the stages are a blast. And then you have the music in there. It's just, the game just sells itself, in my opinion. I don't know how I had to sit here for almost like 20 minutes to tell you all that, but I digress. Sonic Generations still rocks in 2022. I had a blast going back to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave it in your hands now. What do you think of Sonic Generations? I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts because I know when I posted my Unleashed video, a lot of people were like, man, this game was so good. I'm curious if Generations gets that same respect because I don't know. Like, your Sonic community has been fantastic to me. Just, I trust no one on the internet. I don't know how predictable y'all can be. So with that, I leave it in your hands. Let me know what you're thinking. With that, take great care of yourselves and I'll see you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.